My time in Ms. Bloomline's Read 180 class at Everett High School was fulfilling, but did not allow me to get as in-depth of a look at a literacy learner as I would have liked. Essentially, I had two literacy learners. My assigned literacy learner had been absent several times, forcing me to assist another TE student and his reader. Everett was also closed on one of my days, so please bear with me through this digital story. I did make a little headway in my students' reading comprehension, but I do not have as much information as I would have liked. So first, allow me to introduce you to the student. He's a 9th grader who, as far as I know, grew up in the Lansing area. He plays several different sports including football. He also enjoys playing video games and reading comic books. It was really difficult at first to convince him to read along with me during the class period. I got the impression that it takes a while to get him to open up because he would not participate at all. I kept asking him questions to try and get him to come out of his shell, but nothing seemed to work. Finally, I mentioned that I loved Dragon Ball Z, and it was like a light bulb turned on. From that point forward, he was more interested in reading through the book and trying literary strategies. However, it turns out that comic books are the only texts that he reads outside of the schoolwork, and even then, he barely finishes his assignments. He openly admitted to struggling with basic reading comprehension and downright hates most of the text from school. He also stated that he really does not like to write either, so it was evident I had my work cut out. At least he was now open to experimenting with new comprehension strategies. After assessing him through basic clarifying questions, it was undeniable how much trouble reading gave him. He read a lot faster than me, which would force him to often skip over words that he found difficult. Then when I would pause and ask him a very simple question to clarify the plot, he would not be able to answer. I don't blame him for hating reading and writing. I absolutely hate calculus to this very day because I can never wrap my head around much of the material in high school. So I set out to search for a strategy that would accomplish several things. It would force him to slow down when he read with a clear goal in mind, allow him to start picking up important plot points, and eventually connect these points back together. It really felt as though we had to start from square one. Then eventually, I found the cause and effect chart for my strategy presentation. While this strategy was not perfect, its benefits were definitely evident. My student almost immediately read slower because I made it clear that his goal was to pick out important plot points. While he did not pick out the most important part of the chapter we read, he was able to start retaining a bit of the story. He was also eventually able to recall the part he wrote down. I planned to continue using this strategy for more reading sessions, but unfortunately no further progress was made. The following sessions, he was a lot quieter and refused to read or write much at all. It has been several weeks since I've seen him. In that period, I went back to assisting the student from the very first day. The other TE student was implementing his own basic strategies, so I was unable to get more data regarding whether or not one could scaffold from the first cause and effect chart. I'm assuming that my assigned student just happened to be sick those days after my first successful strategy. As far as I know, he did not have any troubles at home. From the little I could get out of him, he has a solid relationship with his father and brothers because while they barely read, they will flip through a comic book with him. I really hope that he could find ways to push through difficult and frustrating texts in the future because it seemed that he was really improving.